Bula, Malele, Talofa and Welcome to Season 6, Episode 8 of Breakfast Bites by TEIVOVOsports.com. A wrap of Pasifika People sports news on another bright and sunny Saturday morning, 8 July 2023. Coming to you with tons of hanisi from the 180th meridian in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. In rugby, our tips for the World Rugby U20 Championship on Monday, 10 July in South Africa. Ireland to Jameson, South Africa in the first semi-final, while France will champagne England in the second semi-final for the 2023 championship title. In the Rugby Championship games this weekend, we tip Argentina to argiebargie the All Blacks on Sunday morning at Estadio Malvinas Argentinas in Mendoza, Argentina, and the Springboks to bamboozle the Wallabies, wherever they're playing. In Rugby League, the Panthers have clarified their stance about involvement in the NRL's historic doubleheader in Las Vegas next year. In a statement released yesterday, the Panthers said they have expressed a desire to be represented in the Las Vegas fixtures, but believe the club's representation would be better suited in future years. The following 10 clubs reportedly expressed their interest in taking part: the Raiders, Sharks, Bulldogs, Broncos, Rabbitohs, Storm, Titans, Roosters, Sea Eagles, and the Dolphins, as reported by the Daily Telegraph. In football, Paris Saint-Germain president Nasser El Khelaifi insists superstar forward Kylian Mbappe must sign a new contract if he wants to remain at the club next season. The position is very clear. If Kylian wants to stay, he must sign a new contract. We can't let the best player in the world today leave for free. It's impossible, Khelaifi said when asked about the France forward after Luis Enrique was unveiled as PSG's new coach. Mbappe declared last month that he would not extend his contract, which expires next year, but as indicated, he wants to remain for a final season. PSG must therefore sell the player this July transfer window. Otherwise, they will likely lose him for nothing when his deal ends next season. Mbappe joined PSG from Monaco in August 2017 in a €180 million deal, the second highest transfer fee in history. His leaving now could surpass Neymar's €222 million world record if a bidding war is sparked. In the Tour de France, Jasper Philipsen denied Mark Cavendish a record-breaking Tour de France victory as the Belgian won Stage 7 right on the finish line in Bordeaux. Philipsen made it 3 wins from three sprint stages in a row in this Tour as he came around Cavendish in the final few meters, leaving the British star still tied with Eddie Merckx on 34 career Tour wins. The 38-year-old had come from well down in the pack to power his way down the right-hand side and up the front of the race, but Philipsen got him in the end. The sprint finish in the 170-kilometer stage from Mont-de-Marsan saw no major changes at the top of the general classification, in which Denmark's defending champion Jonas Vingegaard leads from Slovenian UAE Team Emirates star Tadej Pogacar. In sports biz, Saudi Arabia will now launch a multi-billion-dollar entity dedicated solely to sports, according to the Financial Times. Current Saudi sports investments include at least US $2 billion of funding to back LIV Golf, majority ownership of Newcastle United for US $409 million, setting up the Saudi Arabian Formula One Grand Prix, a 17% stake in the Aston Martin F1 team, and the Saudi Pro League US $75 million annual contract for Cristiano Ronaldo. And finally today, a bit of boxing history in background buzz. Tuesday, 4th July 2023 marks 247 years since the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. For boxing historians, it also marks the 113th year in the long history of boxing since the fight of the century. In a ring constructed in the center of the city of Reno, Nevada, packed with 20,000 spectators, Arthur John Johnson, more widely known as Jack Johnson, of Galveston, Texas, the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world, faced the undefeated James J. Jeffries, who was called the Great White Hope, returning from a 6-year retirement, especially to fight Johnson. In truth, the fight was not a boxing match. It was really a confrontation between two ethnic groups, with the ultimate aim of proving the superiority of one race over the other, in the centuries-old struggle between blacks and whites that still persists to this day. Jack Johnson, the 32-year-old champion, descendant of emancipated black slaves, with a perennial smile flashed by gold teeth, irreverent, who mocked racial barriers, was flamboyant, dapper, dandy, arrogant, insubordinate, mocking, sure of his sporting and human worth. 2 years earlier, Johnson had won the first authorized World Championship fight between heavyweights of different skin color when he knocked out Canadian Tommy Burns in 14 of 20 rounds in Sydney, Australia on Boxing Day 1908, whom he had chased and challenged for 2 years to give him the title shot. Johnson was defending the belt for the 4th time against Jeffries, 35 years old, undefeated in 25 fights with 16 by KO and 2 draws, before prematurely quitting boxing. Jeffries had returned in response to the requests and pleas of white fans who condemned the fact that a black man was sitting on the throne. In that group of followers stood out the reputed journalist Jack London, creator of the denomination of Great White Hope that was foisted on Jeffries, his idol, who, when he was the champion, had said contemptuously of Johnson, "He's a good boxer, but he's black. If I wasn't the champion, I'd fight him like anyone else. The title won't go to a black as long as I can help it." At 6'3" an inch taller than the Texan, Jeffries had dropped some 43 kilos for the fight and seemed in perfect physical condition to contain the champion of impressive muscle mass, who liked to fight defensively, waiting for the slightest carelessness or gap to attack with devastating fury, not stopping until his opponent collapsed. That was exactly the tactic Johnson used in the ring that 4th of July, 1910, to frustrate Jeffries, who from the first bell tried to approach and attack him while Johnson hit him and then sought to clinch. He repeated the dose and gradually undermined the resistance of the challenger. In round 15, Johnson hit Jeffries with a hard right to the head, and the former champion went to the floor for the first time in his career. At the time, there was no rule of sending the standing fighter to the neutral corner, so Johnson charged again, knocking Jeffries down for the second time with 2 hard punches, and after a third knockdown, the referee and promoter, Ted Rickard, protected Jeffries, while from his corner a white towel was thrown into the ring at 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the round. It was the end of the Great White Hope, and the death also of the illusions of the more than 20,000 fans, all white, as blacks were not allowed to enter the arena. When the result of the fight was made public in Reno and spread to other parts of the 52 states and cities and 25 states of the Union, euphoric masses of black people expressed their joy publicly, only to be immediately repelled by angry mobs, who are called today white supremacists. Riots went on for several days, with police powerless to stop the joy on one side and the fury unleashed on the other. The exact death toll is unknown, but estimated at about 20 people, with more than 200 injured. A couple of years after his victory over Jeffries, Johnson would fall victim to his relentless persecutors and powerful enemies. He was imprisoned in 1912 for immoral purposes, marrying a white woman, his second wife, Lucille Cameron, an offense punishable by the Mann Act of 1910, for which a jury of 11 white people sentenced Jack Johnson to a year in prison. Johnson fled to Europe, where he stayed for a time and fought, and also traveled to Argentina, Mexico, and Cuba, where he lost his title in Havana to Jess Willard on 5 April 1915 at 2 minutes 20 seconds of the 26th round of a 45-round fight. Johnson later claimed that he had given up the fight in order to return to the US after an agreement with the State Department. On returning to the US, Jack Johnson was imprisoned between September 1920 and July of the following year, after which he returned to boxing in his early 40s and fought 11 times for 6 wins, the last one against Brad Simmons, whom he knocked out in 2 rounds. Jack Johnson, considered one of the 10 best heavyweights in history, left boxing with an unofficial record of 77 fights won, 48 by KO, 13 defeats, 14 draws, and 19 no decisions. Inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990, Johnson, born on 3rd March 1878, died at the age of 68 on 3 June 1946 in a traffic accident at the wheel of one of his many luxury automobiles on a highway in Raleigh, North Carolina. Minutes earlier, he had stormed out of a restaurant where he was refused service because of the color of his skin. In April 2018, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in response to a petition led by Sylvester Stallone, granted Jack Johnson a pardon for his conviction. And that's a wrap. For TEIVOVOsports.com, I'm Calden Khmer. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons below if you want to receive more Pasifika sports highlights on Breakfast Bites. Mahalo, ka kite, and thank you all, Tumas, for all your love and support.